Crows are very sneaky about the location of their nests, but with so many crows raising families around our homes and neighborhoods, crows' nests are actually very common, and if you know the signs to look for, being able to find a crow's nest is actually well within reach of a little observation. So in this video, I'm going to share some basics about how to find crow nests, as well as some key signs in their behavior and a sound that crows make near their nests in order to help you locate them in the earliest stages of nesting. So if you want to find a crow nest, it's important to realize that crows are some of the earliest birds to start nesting, and in a lot of places there will still be snow on the ground when they first start pairing up and building nests. So beginning as early as February, you'll notice that small families, anywhere from 2 to 5 crows, are starting to break away from their communal winter roosts, which I've talked about in another video. These families include a male, a female, and often some children from previous years. And they start to become protective of the female and their nest site. So when you start to notice small groups of crows hanging around more regularly, you can get a general sense for the core areas they're protecting when you see crows chasing each other away and then hooking back to the same direction they came from. And this all starts while the majority of crows are still using their communal winter roosts. So be aware that just because you see crows flying to their winter roosts doesn't mean there aren't also nesting families that have already started to break away. The next sign you can look for in mid to late winter is pairs of crows inconspicuously bonding in the forest. This is the sort of behavior that most people would probably just walk by without even noticing, and it's one of the things about crow nesting that it's a lot quieter and more subtle than a lot of the other behaviors you're probably used to with crows. And it's one of the reasons why I highly recommend binoculars, because you will probably need to have binoculars in order to see some of these nesting displays. But you can see there are 2 crows sitting very closely together, and if you look carefully, the male is preening the female, and they're just having some nice bonding time together. This is part of the courtship process that male and female crows do, even several weeks before they start actually building the nest. They do this behavior very close to where the nest is built, so if you see this behavior, it's a really good sign that you have a nesting pair that will very likely be making a nest within the next few weeks. However, the best indicator and the most common way to actually find an active crow nest comes when you start to see crows gathering nest materials. Look for crows in the subcanopy of the forest, hopping around in the branches in a stealthy sort of way, and they're typically not making a lot of vocalizations while they do this. This is all happening actually very close to where they did the bonding ritual from the previous clip. You could see how this crow is picking at the branches, picking at the trees, and gathering materials for their nest, and then flying them away. And if you watch carefully where the crows go when they have nest materials in their mouths, this will very often show you exactly where their nests are. Nest sites for crows are most often in big, sheltered trees near forest edges, often with a water feature somewhere nearby. Most of the nests that I've found were in big conifers like pines or spruce trees, but they can nest in a wide variety of locations, including our own neighborhoods and backyards, which is exactly where these crows built their nest. This one was gathering nest materials within about 50 to 100 feet of the actual nest location, and so I was able to watch them flying in and out of the same spot repeatedly up at the top of these 2 pine trees. And even though the nest itself is extremely well hidden to the point of being basically invisible, with all the flying in and out, coming and going from the same spot dozens of times every day, we can confidently identify that this is the nest location. Now, there's another great clue that you can use to find the nest, which is actually a soft sound that the female makes. So, on the same day as the crows were bringing nest materials, I would occasionally hear the female making little soft begging calls that sound a lot like the juvenile begging calls that happen later in spring. And whenever she would make these calls, often within a few minutes, I would see the male flying into the nest. And so, if you listen for this sound, this can also be a really great way to find the nest. I really just want to put in a good word here that if you do find a crow's nest using any of the indicators in this video, that you always be respectful of their space. Pay attention to the effect that you're having on their behavior. Crows are pretty tolerant of humans, but as with all wildlife, it is possible to affect them in negative ways through our presence. So just be mindful of that. Watch from a distance and use binoculars if necessary. If they start to show agitation at your presence, just leave them alone, and you can still learn a lot from observing their behavior at a distance. And with the crow season just getting warmed up, there's a lot more exciting things to look forward to in upcoming months. So let me know what's happening with your crows. Have you ever found a crow's nest? Where was it? And what were the signs that helped you find it? I'd love to read your stories in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.